I have some footage of some new Palantir technology, Palantir and Maven slash Gotham. Okay. And what this technology is designed to do, it's designed to combine large volumes of military and intelligence data into a common operational picture. Okay. Now you can now that's jargon for effectively, and what you're going to see here in this clip is that it is monitoring you walking around. And I've got two clips to back this up, because not only are you going to see the technology explained, but then you're going to see them talk about it in their own words. And again, so I'm going to run these clips here, and you're not going to believe this. This first one, here you go. This is, he's explaining to you their Palantir spying technology. Check this out.
This is Maven Smart System, Palantir's software as a service product that we are deploying across the entire department. As you can see, it's not just one data feed, it's multiple. And instead of having 8 or 9 systems for those decision makers to look at every single day, in order for them to make decisions, you then fuse it into a single visualization tool. The single visualization tool allows you to select different types
that
of
could
data,
be your business,
look
your
at
work.
different approaches to data, but more importantly, action from the same system that you're
going to a
trying
strip
to
mall.
develop your workflows around. Once you have a detection that you want to actually move into a targeting workflow, for example, this is what we do. Left click, right click, left click, magically, it becomes a detection. That detection then gets moved into a workflow.
Look at all
this
that
is
data.
Standard digitized workflow, but I want to walk you through it quickly.
You're a
You have
data
different types of
workflow.
targets that are identified on the left there. Every single column produces a different type of decision-making process. Once you have that decision and you're trying to actually action that process, we now move into COA generation, course of action generation, where we are automatically, via a number of factors, trying to identify what the best asset to prosecute a target looks like.
Look at that. How much time it takes you.
Once we've got
I'm going to back up on that picture here. Look at this. So which metrics their AI should prioritize? You see time to target, distance, fuel, time on station. Literally, that can be, how long does it take you to go from your house to the grocery store to the library? How much time do you spend in the grocery store and the library? How much approximate fuel do you think you're using on those trips in the car that you have, which, by the way, they can tell exactly what that is. And of course, this is military terms, but you can see the application and what it would be on us. And you know that it's going to come on us. All right, I'll just got 30 more seconds here. Check this out.
Once we've got the different approaches and we select one, we then can move directly into how do we action that target. So we've gone from identifying the target to now coming up with a course of action to now actioning that target, all from one system. This is revolutionary. We were having this done in about 8 or 9 systems where humans were literally moving detections left and right in order to get to our desired end state.
In order to get to their desired end status. Man, my goodness. Let me tell you, here's the next one, more from their own words. This is a clip from Fox News. Here's a Flock CEO defending their cameras.
I value my privacy.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a little low volume. Let me do that again.
Employees value their privacy. I value my privacy. My family values their privacy. My employees value their privacy. But what we're talking about is safety as well. And so I think when people talk about just one of these, privacy or safety, they're prioritizing the wrong thing. And what we have to prioritize as a country is compromise. How do we have our safety and how do we balance privacy? And so when I think about legislation that calls for an outright ban, that's like banning vehicles. That would never have made sense. Instead, what we did is we introduced laws against drunk driving. We introduced laws around seatbelts, laws around airbags.
Right, so to ban flock cameras would be akin to banning cars, banning automobiles. Now, listen to this. Here's how they're going to use it in practice. Again, I'm showing you these because I want you to see. You just saw the technology. You saw how granular the information would be. Then you saw Flock CEO defending it and saying, hey, you can't have privacy if you want to be safe. That's, we need this, you'll be safe. And if you ban this, it's like you're banning the automobile, which is a false comparison. And now here, this is from Wall Street Apes. So you're also going to hear him at the end of it talking a little bit. But this is how they plan to use it on you and me.
If you don't have flock cameras, How are law enforcement going to detect and see somebody walking around, possibly looking to blow up your state capitol or commit terrorist acts?
I don't know, actual police work?
If you're not doing anything wrong, and you're not committing any crimes, what do you care? I mean, you feel safer.
The idea that because you were able to use it effectively one time, my civil rights and my privacy are violated daily, that is a balancing act that I don't think a lot of people are comfortable with right now.
Yeah, that's the other side of the argument, but popular backlash has been growing against those cameras. A sheriff's deputy outside of New Orleans fired for using license plate reader cameras to track his ex-fiancée. And that's just one in a string of cases where officers have been caught allegedly misusing the cameras.
All right, so you get the point there, hopefully loud and clear. These Flock cameras, and it's not just Flock. Remember, we've got Axon too. I believe Axon, is that not the company that President Trump has some investments in as well? They're actually
Correct.
replacing on the market, and they are competition to Flock, so they're probably fine with us taking down Flock because nobody's looking at Axon. But but you have the granular level of how it works, how your data, how your whereabouts and everything that you're doing is triangulated, tabulated, recorded. You're a workflow, you're a data workflow. Their Flock is going to sell it to you as safety. And then you've got law enforcement coming out and saying, well, gee, how else are we going to stop the bad guys unless we can monitor everybody all the time? And let me remind you the other piece of this puzzle that they've laid out in a different context, but we have yet to connect it to this story. You'll recall President Trump being indicted on a bunch of stuff during the campaign. That's pretty much what his presidential campaign was. You'll recall all the J6ers, the federal, which was an FBI. We know that was an FBI setup, and it was a photo op so they could further their narrative. And congratulations, they were able to do that. But we held all kinds of J6ers without actual charges for some of them for years. Mm-hmm. Here's what's happening. It's no longer, and you're seeing even our understanding of law become different. It used to be, here, there's a crime, now let's find the criminal. Now it's going to be, here's a person, and now we're going to find the crime, or we're going to invent the crime. And this is not anything new. Book of Daniel, those of you who read the Bible, the Old Testament, you have Daniel. The reason he went into the lion's den was because some of the political leaders didn't like that Daniel was praying to God. And so they went to the king and said, hey, they basically set him up and said, hey, let's make a law that nobody can pray to their God. They all have to worship you, king. And because they knew Daniel, they knew they'd catch Daniel. And so they invented a crime to catch a person who they were actively monitoring and watching. This is what is coming. This is not fear-mongering. This is not conspiracy theory. I just played you the clips in order. This is what they plan to do. We had Event 201 with COVID where they game theoried what would happen if a coronavirus went all over the world and what they would do. And sure enough, they did it, and it wasn't even a year later. They're telling you what they want to do. And that last clip also mentioned RC, and then I'll shut up. Mm-hmm. He said, how else are we going to catch people walking around? Walking around. How else are we going to be able to monitor you as you go from the funnel cake booth at the fair to the porta potty? We can't possibly have you doing that unless we're watching. RC.
That guy looked crazy. The last guy, he's like the freeze frame. His eyes. He's like,
well, they kind of have to be, I think.
Yeah. How are we going to do it? Maybe doing your job like actual police work. I don't know. Maybe that works. I don't know. If that's out of style, then I'm on the wrong train. Maybe. Andrew, listen, I encourage everybody to do what we've told them to do for years. Everybody should go back right now and watch the movie Minority Report. Why do you ask? Well, because you're actually living in it now, right? They're showing you basically pre-crime. Here we go, right? Find me the man, I'll find you the crime. And they're going to take all of those markers like they did for where they were going to deploy the weapon, and they're going to start deploying it on you. And you can say we're conspiracy theorists, tighten up our tinfoil hats, we're making a mountain out of a molehill. Listen, even before the Patriot Act, but really after the Patriot Act took effect, you were really living in a surveillance state. And it's only intensified in the last 25 years. And it's going to continue to intensify unless we do something about it. And these guys will always run the same game on you. They will always run we can't keep you safe. and secure unless you're willing to give up a little freedom here. And if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to worry about. That is the biggest crock of bull ever, right? Because who determines whether or not you're doing something right or wrong? How can that be bent or twisted? How soon before speech that is disagreed with is considered doing something wrong? And then how's that going to be interpreted? Who's going to interpret it? How is that going to go? Folks,
Well,
this is exactly why the Constitution exists. For
We've-
this exact reason.
And we've already seen, even with this administration, who you and I would normally be in support of, because it's our guys in the White House, it's our team in the White House, it's
Yeah.
our team in the Senate, it's our team in the House. But when Jimmy Kimmel had something offensive to say, the pressure from the president was to get him fired. He was suspended for a week and he came back on. The pressure from this administration to crack down on The View because they have a left bias. Well, duh. I mean, haven't they been on for almost 30 years? When were they ever having the George Will types on? I can't remember. I don't recall that at all. So all of a sudden now, but here's the thing: if we'll do it on our side to that degree, obviously, across the aisle they're going to do it too. And here's the thing: across the aisle is being increasingly taken over by communists who absolutely do that. That's what they do. Let me ask you this. Do you think that we who are defending this kind of thing now, because it's happening under a Republican administration, would we tolerate the same architecture under a Democrat or an otherwise hostile administration?
Absolutely not, Andrew. People would be out of their mind, right? They would be absolutely out of their mind. But this is the fear that we had on election night. We said if people get apathetic after, because it's like, oh, Trump's in office, everything is going to be fine. This thing is going to come at you like a freight train. Well, the freight train now, as you've got your foot on the track, is about 15 feet away. And it seems like you still haven't figured it out yet. It's like this exact thing. So we absolutely would not tolerate it if this was the other side, right? We'd be screaming at the top of our lungs, this is insane surveillance state. I know my rights, blah, 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 blah. But for whatever reason, for now, as they say on the History Channel, it seems to be okay.
And here's the other thing on that. They're just doing it to us. When did you and I vote for any of that? And I wonder, I really do wonder, and hopefully we can have our buddy Bill Federer on at some point, because he knows history, he also knows the Constitution. But, are we getting into some we're in post-constitutional republic, let's be honest about that, but in terms of how we're behaving. But are some of these things rubbing up against the Constitution, because you're seeing now what the government can't get away with? That's what the public-private partnership is. The government can't get away with it, so they get into bed with these private, billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar companies in order to do the thing that the government could not do because they're prohibited by the Constitution. But of course, the private business can do whatever they want.